like she said, my name is Kelly, and I actually have a YouTube channel and a blog called My New Danish Life. And how are you?
How are you?
Yeah. And but here today, I'm just going to talk about my experience, what it's like to move to Denmark, and how I've adjusted. I have been living in Denmark for 3.5 years, but my story doesn't quite start there. I actually met my Danish husband in the United States 12 years ago, and I've been traveling to Denmark every so often, visiting his family, so I've gotten a little taste of the culture, but as many of you may know, living here is not the same as being a tourist here. So, yeah, we had a great life in the U.S. We had a good social circle. We had really good jobs. I was a teacher. My husband works for a Danish company, and we. Oh, maybe not. Oh, okay. One thing led to another. We got married, we bought a house, we wanted to establish roots in the U.S., and we really didn't have any idea of moving to Denmark. We didn't have that thought in our head at all. And shortly thereafter, our family grew, and we have 2 boys who are now 9 and almost 7. And we just had a really good time living, I guess, the American dream. And my husband really enjoyed being all part of that and experienced what it was like to be an American. And we, in 2015, added once more to our family when we bought a camper. So we became campers in the U.S. We thought this is going to be the best way to see the U.S. is to do it through camping and get to spend some quality time as a family. And we, again, had really no thought of moving to Denmark. But when this summer ended, the first summer with our camper, my husband said, I'm not really sure I want to stick around. I think I might want to look for a job somewhere else, which came to me as a complete surprise. And so we talked about it for a few weeks, but then he said, I found a job in Denmark. I had no idea he was looking for jobs in Denmark. I'm thinking East Coast, I'm thinking somewhere else in the Midwest. I was not thinking going overseas. But he was actually headed off to a week-long trip to India with his company, and he tells me that right before he leaves. And so I'm stuck at home with my 2 boys and my thoughts, and if you know me, I am the type of person that festers and thinks about things way too much, and I fixate on them, and it becomes my whole world. And so it's a really good thing that he was gone for a week, because I probably would have been pestering him with way too many questions. But yeah, I didn't really know if that was the kind of life that I wanted, but he had been living in the U.S. with me for 9 years, and I thought it was my turn. So if it worked out and the stars had aligned that he would actually find something and we would move, then I would be okay with it. Being a teacher, you can kind of do that in a lot of different places, so I felt pretty confident that I would be able to find a job at some point in time. And our children didn't know anything about being Danish. They only knew about visiting grandma every other year, and they couldn't speak the language at all. We thought, well, this might be a really good opportunity for them. So 4 months after the initial, hey, maybe we should move to Denmark kind of talk, my husband actually got a face-to-face interview when we were visiting Denmark for Christmas, and he accepted a job. And of course, his family was pretty excited about it. Mine not so much. That's why I didn't tell anybody about it until he actually got the job. That 4 months by myself, and not by myself, but it was a secret that I was keeping. I couldn't really tell my family because I knew they wouldn't be happy about it. And if you're, moving to Denmark from another country, maybe you can relate. But yeah, I had a little bit of resistance from my family. But how do we transition into that? We come back to the U.S. after Christmas. We have less than 2 months to sell off all of our possessions, our cars, our camper, our house. My house, it's where I brought my babies home. It was really bittersweet to think this was where we made a home. It wasn't just our house, and it was a lot a lot for me. And my grandma had just turned 90, and I thought I was never going to see her again. She's now 94. So, yeah, she's going to outlive us all. But I had a lot of things that I was worried about that I didn't need to worry about. And so when we came to Denmark, we actually took it as a 2-week vacation, and we went to Grandma's house. So the boys were little, they didn't quite understand what does moving mean. So we said, oh, we're just, our house is empty. I don't know if they noticed. And we have 8 huge suitcases with what we were living off of. And we went to their grandma's house. They didn't really see anything different. And it was nice for me to adjust. My mother-in-law lives 2.5 hours from where I moved. I live outside of Viborg. So in my way of explaining to people, I live in the middle of nowhere because I live in a small town surrounded by farmland. So, and I didn't know anybody there when we moved. But when we originally moved into our town 2 weeks after the nice time, and I don't know, you can't really tell, but she lives on the coast. She lives on an island in the southern part of Denmark. It's so idyllic. So when I say, oh, I'm going to move to Denmark, this is what I think about. Well, it's not really what I have where I'm living at now. But, yeah. But it was kind of exciting. We went from a 240 square meter house to an 80 square meter apartment. And again, that was surrounded literally by a forest, farms, and farms. We were kind of on the outskirts of town, and I didn't know anybody. My husband is not very social. If you ever watch my YouTube channel, you'll never see him on there because he's shy. And so I really had to kind of find my own way, and it was really difficult at first. But those first few, weeks, the first month really of living in our town, it was nice because we didn't have anything to distract us. We had to borrow furniture from my mother-in-law. None of this was our stuff. It was stuff that we had on loan. All of our stuff was going to come later. And so we had some time to relax, and we found the playgrounds, and we went and checked out all the family fun places, and really it was kind of like another vacation. The 2 weeks of exploring a part of Denmark I'd never been to before. And we were having a pretty good time. You work so much, and I was working as a teacher and working to sell my house and working to do all these different things. And then I kind of had a month of a little bit of relaxation. So we took advantage of it. But it was kind of easy because we didn't really know anybody, and I didn't have anywhere to go. And neither did they. But then reality sets in a month after we moved because we had been kind of living as tourists. Yes, my husband had his job and he was working, but it was just me and the boys at home, and we were just trying to figure out where everything was and how everything worked. And that's about the time our container showed up. Imagine one of the biggest trucks ever, because I guess I didn't want to throw anything away. I brought everything. I seriously brought everything. And this was just the boxes from my kitchen stuff. Because I couldn't walk in my kitchen, it was such a narrow space. I'm like, I have to get these boxes out of here. But this is pretty much how our apartment looked for a long time. And so we made some connections, and we found a place to store our stuff. But it was a very long time, 6 months in this apartment, and there were things that I hadn't seen since we boxed it up in the beginning of February. So February to even October, I hadn't seen anything. So you're probably guessing you probably can live without that stuff. Why didn't you bring it with you? No, it's probably still in my house right now. But we had the bare essentials, right? We had our kitchen table because we were using a little end table that we borrowed from my mother-in-law. And then at that point, again, I'm at home trying to unbox things, but I can't really take anything out because I don't have anywhere to put it. I mean, if you know anything about Danish apartments and homes, there's really no closet space. Not like what I'm used to in the US, where I would have a huge closet in every room, and a full attic, and a full basement. I don't have any of that. But we wanted to get life going as quickly as we could, so my boys went to daycare within the first month of us moving here. And of course, it was such a hard transition for me as a mom because I couldn't communicate with their daycare teachers, and I didn't really know if I don't know, they'd be okay, right? It's like the first day of school for a parent, but for me, this first day of school lasted a very long time because my kids couldn't speak Danish. And I thought every day is going to be difficult for them. That leaves me kind of just sitting there at home. I can't really unbox my stuff. I don't have anywhere to go. I don't have a CPR card. I don't have the Danish language. I can't take classes. I don't know anybody. I have nothing to do. We don't even, we have our TV, I think, on box. Maybe that was it. So I'm sitting there watching Castle. You know that American TV show? It's my favorite. So I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, thank God Viaplay has every season of Castle. I'm set until my life can begin, right? Well, I have kind of a personality where I can't just sit. I don't know if it's ADHD or if it's just me, but I'll take whatever it is because it got me off my couch. And I started networking, and I started going on to Facebook, and I knew nothing about Twitter and Instagram at this point in time. I knew Facebook, so I went on there and I thought, I need to find other people. I can't just talk to my neighbors because I don't really speak Danish very well. And to be completely honest, I don't know, we weren't really compatible. I don't know. It's not like I live in Denmark and you're my neighbor, we need to be best friends now. It didn't happen. But, so it was a really good thing for me to kind of get out of my house. I think I got into a rut, which is easy to do, and I live in a town of like 8,000 people. So it's very easy just to sit in your house and not really communicate with a lot of people. So Facebook really helped me communicate with other Americans in Denmark, internationals, international mothers, a lot of other groups that I joined that helped me. But I wouldn't say that my life was completely perfect because I had the connections and I could get out of my house because, Denmark has its hurdles. And I wouldn't say it's like, oh, I'm all great in this international community, but now it's the Danes. And I wouldn't say that it was them completely, but, it's me adjusting. I don't really speak the language. I tried to teach myself. I've been a foreign language teacher for 16 years. How hard can Danish be? I could speak German. I could speak little bits and pieces of all different kinds of languages. But when I started studying before I left, it was a lot of reading and writing. I thought, I can do this. I understand all of this. But I did not understand what anybody said to me within the first 6 months of living here. It was very difficult. And you're putting your kids in daycare and you're doing all these different things, and I need my life just to kind of keep going. But there's this major block because I don't know what anybody's saying. And then, I don't always understand what people mean when they use their sarcasm. So, maybe somebody's saying something to me and I'm trying my best to communicate, but then I think they're being mean to me, and then my attitude goes down, and it's a complete, culture shock. Culture shock just completely set in. Language, you can kind of get over, it's fine, but I really didn't know how to, work with these Danish people. I don't know how to fit into their society. I thought, I'm going to just fit in. I'm going to be the best expat ever. But I had no idea. And I'm married to a Dane. I've been with him for 12 years. But evidently he's the least sarcastic Dane in Denmark because I have learned nothing from him. But I know that a lot of his friends who seemed really, really kind of, like jerks before, okay, maybe they weren't. Maybe they were trying to be my friend and I just didn't realize it. Okay. But the thing is that Danes have this bubble, it's around them all the time. We can't see it, but we know it's there. And no matter how hard I try to penetrate into that bubble and try to become their friend, it just wasn't working. And I felt like, man, I'm putting in a lot of effort. And I'm kind of likable, I think. It's not that difficult to, smile or wave or, show that you're human as well. And I know some other Danish people that I talk to, family, but it was just very difficult for them. I think that's part of a lot of the Danish society, I won't say everyone, because of course I've met quite a few Danes who find no problem at all with meeting foreigners and letting them in. But this was a very big problem in my teeny tiny town in the middle of the farmland. And I can actually say that I have neighbors, I've lived in my house now for 3 years, that it had to have been at least a year and a half before they even waved to me. And I'm like, I don't know what I did. Did I do something? Did I put my flag out when I wasn't supposed to? You know, I don't have any pets that can poop in their yard. I don't know what it is, but yeah. And I have some tips for surviving this because I'm a survivor. I'm still here. And, you know, we actually plan on making this a permanent move. My kids go to Danish public schools. You know, we do everything the way the Danes do, except for, you know, celebrate Thanksgiving and 4th of July and all of my favorite American things. But, you know, it's, sometimes, you know, you put a lot of pressure on yourself to, I don't know, to fit in too fast and to make your life just go on the conveyor belt that it was on before. You know, I had really strong connections with groups that I was in the U.S. I mean, I was a runner. I was in a running group, and I was in a mom's group, and I was in a group with sewers, and I learned how to sew, and I'm just doing a lot of things that I really enjoyed. And then I come here, and I feel like I can't do those things, no matter how hard I try. One, learn names and faces and don't expect friendships. I say this because I was in a running group. Day 4 of moving to Denmark, I joined our local running group. And I met someone who was fantastic. She was so nice. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be great. Then she gets an injury and doesn't come back. And I was in there for a year, coming once or twice a week, and nobody talked to me. Nobody talked to me at all. And so I'm like, okay, you know, I'm like the kid who doesn't get picked in gym class, you know, I'm hiding in the back or whatever. But I'm out there and I'm saying hi, and I don't really know what to talk to these people about, but I'm trying. But I didn't really make any friendships, but I know a lot of faces and I know a lot of names, and that's actually made a difference. Because when I go to the grocery store, they wave and say hi to me, and really that's kind of all I need. So it seems like kind of a weird thing, but it's a baby step that I think is important taking. Because friendships, if your only goal is to make friends, you're probably not going to be satisfied. Because it's probably not going to happen, at least right away. Don't sweat the small stuff. So I mean, there's a lot of things that come up when you're in a new country that you just don't understand. You know, I mean, like me using an app on my phone for the bus on the train because I thought it was all the same thing. And, you know, freaking out because I just got caught doing something wrong. You know, being a teacher, I guess maybe I always thought I wanted to do the right thing. But I made a lot of mistakes. There were so many times in the grocery store I couldn't find what I wanted. And I would end up just leaving everything there and just going off and feeling completely defeated. And it's so small. But, you know, I mean, if you focus on the small things, they tend to become big things. But it's really important to get out there. I mean, I know people who move here with really high expectations and they have all this desire to have a good time, but then when you get down in that, because it's a roller coaster, it's always ups and downs. It's not like, oh, I was up, now I'm down, I'm going to get back up, and I'm always going to be there. It's always going to be like this, I think. But, you know, there are some people who get down low and they're like, I don't want to leave my house. I want to sit and watch Castle all day. You know, I want to be in my comfort zone and, you know, talk to my mom for 2 hours every day and never leave my house. And I go pick up my kids and I'm like, oh yeah, I live in Denmark. Because everything else is so familiar. But it's so important to just go out and do something that maybe you're not quite comfortable with all the time. You know, like for me, believe it or not, I was an introvert before I moved to Denmark. I would have never put my face on YouTube or, you know, anything where I'm putting myself out there. It would have never happened. But it feels that, you know, I've changed a lot since I moved here, and it's now a necessity for my survival. But take Danish classes. I can't stress that enough. I mean, I know if you live in a place probably like Herning, there's a lot of opportunities. I saw that in the fair downstairs. It's amazing how many opportunities you have if you're an expat here and part of the international society. But it's so important, I think, just to be part of the Danish society. I mean, like I said, my kids go to Danish school, so I have to make sure I can speak Danish to communicate with their parent or to communicate with their teachers. And my neighbors. I think that my Danish has improved since living here, so they're a little bit more comfortable with talking with me. Maybe that's why I get the smiles and the waves a little bit more now than I did before. And it's not like they're mean people, because they're not. I mean, the majority of the people who live on my street, they're all older, retired people. They're like, I think, like grandma and grandpa type people. They're really nice, And it makes me feel comfortable going to them and saying, hey, can you fill up my bike tire or something weird, because I don't know why I can't do that myself. But, it's so important just for me to be able to go outside my house and say I can communicate with people. So I don't know. I know it's so easy to get by in Scandinavian countries with speaking English, but I think it's so important to learn Danish. Okay, but don't put crazy expectations on yourself, because I said I'm going to learn Danish in 6 months and I'm not going to have to worry about anything and my transition is going to be so easy. Yeah, but again, I couldn't understand anything anyone was saying after 6 months. And I could read some things and I could figure it out, but even my husband has the worst Danish accent in the world. I meet all these other days and I'm thinking, why is my husband the one that I can't ever understand? There's like no hope for me learning Danish in my household. It's crazy. But I put so much pressure on it to where it wasn't fun learning Danish. I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go. And I was cranky and mad, and I don't want to be in Danish classes. But it was putting too much pressure. And I think if you put too much pressure in any situation, you're not going to have a good time. So that's why I say don't put so much expectations on yourself. Things just have to come naturally. And the Danish language will someday make sense to you, I think, if you stick at it long enough. For me, I'm able to understand a lot more, but I don't know, this Jysk area, this Jysk dialect, I have to take my Danish husband translator with me when I go, and he just has to say the same thing to me in his Danish, which is still, I don't know, it's difficult. But the best thing that I've done is to improve my mindset, and I really just changed my attitude, because in reality I kind of have always had kind of a bad attitude. I've had a chip on my shoulder or wear my heart on my sleeve, and it might be kind of hard to see that, but it's true. Because, I don't know, I had a troubled teenage years that just extended the rest of my life. I'm like, oh, this is a good attitude, I'm going to keep this one. And then you become a high school teacher, and you're surrounded by it all the time. You're like, oh, I got to get out of this environment. But, changing your attitude, it really helped me, because I'm focusing on the good things about my surrounding. Not the fact that, I still can't understand my neighbor, but the fact that I'm talking with my neighbor more. Little steps and little achievements, I guess you could say. But then I put in my favorite quote, which is fake it to make it, which I actually used in the US a long time ago with my own students, who would come to me and say, learning German is just really not that easy. It'd be like the first 3 weeks, the first month. And I said, you know what? It's difficult in the beginning, because beginnings are always going to be difficult. But the more that you kind of put yourself out there, and the more that you just go through the motions, it'll come to you in time. And the more that you believe that you can do it, and the more that you're thinking, you know what, I'm getting this, even if your communication skills, I guess, are low or something, it'll come to you. And I know, for me, I forgot that when I moved to Denmark, completely forgot that, because I thought it would be a lot easier than it was. But now I'm back into that fake it until you make it kind of attitude, especially now that I'm back at the university after 15 years of being in the workforce. And it's helping me get through my day in a more positive way. So I hope that maybe you've taken something from this, that knowing that somebody who was once kind of down below and, I don't know, likes Denmark a little bit more. I know some people move here and they're in love with it. I've never been in love with Denmark. I like Denmark a lot, but Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if that'll ever happen, but I think it's important to feel comfortable where you live, to be able to call a place your home. So thank you very much.